Hi, welcome to our art at home session for Refugee Roots. I'm Ant and I'm really pleased to be talking and chatting to you in the WhatsApp group and on the Zoom calls and seeing what you're making, and you're all making such lovely stuff, so well done. If you can't access Zoom and WhatsApp, then we do have some text messages and some phone calls happening as well. So hopefully you can get in touch with us if you need anything. I'm really excited to be doing our mountain landscapes, so week 8 today. And what you'll need is the watercolour paper. So this paper is a bit smaller than the other paper in your pack. I've put in some A4 bigger sheets of plain paper for you to do whatever you want on. You can paint, you can draw. It's a real just free paint, free draw for you. And this paper is a bit thicker, so this is what we're going to be using today, as it holds the paint and the water a bit better. So hope that made sense. I'm going to show you what we're doing. You also need your watercolour tin, cup and a brush, and later your pattern sheet. It's called a mandala sheet, but that's for later. So let me show you. Right, hopefully you can see my desk. Got this white sheet of paper. I'm going to just put some black paper behind it so you can see what I'm doing, but you don't need this black paper. It's just so you can see a bit easier what I'm doing on this sheet. So we've got our paper, our tin, our watercolour tin, brush and some water, and a tissue if you have it. So with our mountain landscape, I've got a couple of ideas for you here of colours you might want to use. So you can see one's more bluey green and one's got more red and oranges. So it's up to you what type of colours you'd like to use. I think in the sheet I've said a more bluey green. Thinking about a mountain landscape is probably a bit more in the countryside. So we'll have a go at that. So similar to last week when we do our washes. So we're just getting the water and putting the water on the page, top and bottom. You've done this before, so hopefully you know that you've got to work quickly, but also that it makes a wash, and the wash is called wet on wet. So we're adding our colour, whichever colour you want to use. I'm starting with blue, and so the paint is wet. You have to get that wet, and the background is wet, and this helps it really blend out. And you can be quite free with this. One good thing about watercolours is it's very forgiving, so it's very hard to make a mistake. You can be quite messy and it will still look really nice. Even drips and things like that haven't gone that very well actually can end up looking really good, can look like spray, clouds, mist. So actually just do this and hopefully don't worry about it too much. So the next colour I'm going to use is green, bit of green next to the blue. And just like last time with our beach silhouettes, rather than having two separate bands of colour, get the water and mix between the two. So I'm mixing on the page the blue and the green together, just for that middle bit, so it's kind of blended in. And if you need to go over the blue, you can do. And now in the middle, I'm gonna do the yellow. So if you've chosen different colours, that's absolutely fine. You can test out different blended washes on your larger piece of paper before putting it on this small piece of paper, because I know we've got a limited amount of this watercolour paper, so you can try it out. So something like this. Now this, before it dries actually, I'm going to think about the sun or the moon. And what we did last time, and what is a nice technique, is to dip a tissue in some water and not too much water, that's gone a bit spilled out for me. But it's good to do this kind of before it dries. So place it on your piece of paper and twist it, and it creates a, it takes the paint off the page and makes a hazy kind of circle, which we can later colour around to create our sun. Now this is quite wet. I'm going to place it here to dry because we need it to dry a little bit more before we work on it. And at this step I've said we can paint our mandala sheet. So this will be different for everyone, but you'll have some kind of printed pattern that I've printed out for you, and maybe a circular design, and that's called a mandala. But you can see they're quite detailed, so it might take a little while to paint. I'm not going to do that now, I'm probably going to save that for next week. And when this is dry, I'm going to show you how to paint the next step. So I'm just going to place that next to the radiator to dry. So the next step will be to get some brown paint to paint the mountains. And also, I don't know if you can see, I've done some kind of movement lines, like the wind, or it kind of adds to the colours that are going on in the washes in the background. So you can see at the top there as well. So I'm going to do that, or we're going to do that on our piece. So doesn't really matter which colours you choose. But what you want to do is make it less watery, and really get the paint a bit thicker on the tin. So you do this by keep getting the paint, or brushing the paint with your brush, so it makes a thicker kind of paint. And we just do some lines across. And again, again with your next colour. I'm going to choose this darker green. Again, you don't want it too watery, just want to put some lines. And it might be a bit difficult. You've got to be brave and just know that it will be fine. And if it's not fine, we can always paint over the watercolour. So some lines just randomly across the page. Now to do our mountains, I'm going to do it facing you. You want to get some water on this darker brown at the side, and again make it quite thick, so you want to rub it brush it with the brush quite a lot. So I'm going to choose where it might sit, so somewhere around the middle. I'm going to start the mountain going up and down, and then another one, and a smaller one, and a smaller one, and then get a bit more paint. So this is just random. You can do mountains whatever kind of shape you like, and mine's still a bit wet to be doing this actually, so hopefully after your other painting yours will be a bit drier to be able to paint on like this. So you want to do these kind of mountains are kind of like these little triangles, so darker at the top, and then as we go down we'll blend it in and blend it down into these kind of reflections or triangles. And then you want to get some black, and again not too much water, you want it to be quite thick, and I'm going to do some birds. So because mine's a bit wet, oh, it's a bit drier at the top, you can see I can get a finer line where it's drier at the top, and where it's wet it spreads out a bit. So these are my birds, and then if you want to take a bit of the black, you can put a bit of the black on your mountain and do some details, and just do it down one side, so as though the light is picking up one side of the mountain and the other side's a bit darker. So it's about building it up really, and I'm rushing through this, but you want to take a lot more time to make sure that that the background's dry enough and that you have enough thought put into where you're putting the paint on the page to make it look a bit more 3D. And then the last step is with this circular sun. I've outlined it. That one was with pencil and that one was with oil pastel. I'm just gonna do a faint line around it. go. That's actually quite big, isn't it, for a sun? You might want to do it a bit smaller. But there, have fun with your mountain landscape, and I'll see you soon.